If you open this video, something inside you already knows that the old version of yourself is ready to die. Not physically, but energetically. It's that quiet, unshakable feeling that the life you've been living, the person you've been being, no longer fits. That knowing isn't coming from your mind. It's coming from your quantum field, calling you forward, pulling you toward your highest timeline. Right now, as you're watching this, there's an invisible force field around you that's keeping you trapped in the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same energetic signature of the person you've been for years. Think of it as your personal gravity, a field so familiar you don't even notice it's there. And here's what most people never understand about the intersection of quantum physics and consciousness. This field isn't just in your mind. It is literally encoded in the fabric of your reality at a subatomic level. Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to change, the more you seem to stay exactly the same? Have you ever wondered why some people can completely transform their lives in what seems like an instant, while others struggle for decades with the same issues, the same relationships, the same financial ceiling? The answer lies in a phenomenon that modern quantum physicists call observer collapse, but which ancient mystics knew by a different, more powerful name: the death of the false self. But here is where the mystery deepens. There is a specific moment, and I'm talking about a measurable scientific moment, where your consciousness literally shifts dimensions. A point where the old you, with all its limitations and patterns, begins to dissolve at the quantum level. And in that sacred emptiness, something extraordinary happens. The universe itself starts to reorganize around the new you that is emerging. Most people never experience this profound shift because they are doing the exact opposite of what quantum mechanics tells us is necessary for true transformation. They are trying to add new habits to the old self. They're trying to put new furniture in a house that's built on a crumbling foundation. They're trying to upgrade the software on hardware that is fundamentally obsolete. This approach is like trying to tune a radio to a new station while keeping the old frequency playing at full volume. It only creates static. The mystics of Tibet had a timeless phrase for this: you cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. And today, modern neuroscience proves this ancient wisdom is a biological fact. Groundbreaking research from pioneers like Dr. Joe Dispenza shows that when we truly let go of our old identity, when we stop trying to improve the old self and instead allow it to dissolve, our brain literally rewires itself in real time. New neural pathways form, not through force, but through surrender. True change isn't addition, it is subtraction. It is not self-improvement, it is self-dissolution. And the space that's left behind, that quiet, empty, powerful void, is not an ending. It is the entrance. This is the work we do here. This is the journey we take together. Welcome to the Quantum Shift Portal. This is not a channel about fixing yourself. It is a space dedicated to liberating yourself. If you are ready to stop renovating the old you and are brave enough to step into the void where the new you is born, then you are in the right place. This is your invitation to join the shift. The neural pathways that kept us locked in old patterns begin to dissolve and new networks form that align with our highest potential. But here's what they don't tell you in the self-help books. This quantum shift doesn't happen gradually. It doesn't happen through willpower or positive thinking. It happens in a moment of complete surrender. What quantum physicists call quantum decoherence, where the old you literally stops existing as a probability in the quantum field. Are you one of the rare souls who's ready to experience this? Because what I'm about to share with you will challenge everything you think you know about change, about identity, and about the very nature of reality itself. You're about to discover why letting go isn't just a spiritual concept. It's a quantum necessity for accessing higher dimensions of existence. The question is, are you ready to stop trying to fix the old you and start allowing the real you to emerge from the quantum field of infinite possibility? To understand why letting go is the only path to quantum transformation, we need to journey into the deepest mysteries of consciousness itself. Every morning when you wake up, you're not just opening your eyes. You're collapsing infinite possibilities into a single reality. You're choosing at a subconscious level which version of yourself will exist in this dimension today. But here's what's happening that most people never realize. Every time you choose to be the same person you were yesterday, you're not just maintaining the status quo, you're actively creating what quantum physicists call a probability wave collapse that locks you deeper into that particular timeline. Think about it this way. In the quantum field, all possibilities exist simultaneously. The version of you that's confident, abundant, and living your highest purpose exists right now in what scientists call a superposition state. But so does the version of you that's stuck, fearful, and repeating the same patterns. The act of observation, your consciousness choosing which reality to experience, is what makes one possibility real and causes the others to fade into the background. This is where ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science converge in the most beautiful way. The Vedic texts speak of Maya, the illusion of the separate self. Buddhist teachings talk about anatta, the non-existence of a fixed identity. What these traditions understood thousands of years ago, quantum mechanics is now proving in laboratories around the world. Your identity, the person you think you are, is not a fixed thing. It's a collection of repeated thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that have created what neuroscientists call neural superhighways. These are the grooves in your brain that make certain patterns automatic, unconscious, effortless. They're so ingrained that they feel like you. But here's the revelation that changes everything. These neural superhighways, these patterns that feel so permanent and unchangeable, they only exist because you keep choosing them. They only have power because you keep energizing them with your attention, your emotion, your identity. The moment, and I mean the precise moment, that you stop identifying with these patterns, something miraculous happens at the quantum level. The wave function that was holding that version of reality in place begins to decohere. The old you literally starts to dissolve not as a destruction, but as a liberation. This is why every spiritual tradition talks about death and rebirth. This is why the hero's journey always involves a moment of complete surrender, a descent into the unknown. It's not metaphorical, it's quantum mechanical. The old self must die for the new self to emerge from the field of infinite potential. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think letting go means losing something. But what if I told you that what you think is you is actually the smallest, most limited version of who you really are? What you're letting go of isn't your true self. It's the prison that's been keeping your true self hidden. What you're releasing isn't your power. It's the illusions that have been blocking your power. What you're surrendering isn't your identity. It's the false identity that's been preventing your authentic self from shining through. And this is just the beginning. What I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how this quantum process works, why it feels so challenging, and most importantly, how to navigate it with grace and trust. Because once you understand the deeper mechanics of consciousness transformation, you'll see that letting go isn't something you do. It's something you allow. Take a moment right now. Just pause. Feel the energy that's moving through your body as you absorb these words. There's something shifting, isn't there? Something that wasn't there when you first started watching this video. That's not your imagination. That's your quantum field beginning to recalibrate. What you're experiencing right now is what physicists call quantum entanglement with higher possibilities. The information you've just received isn't just entering your conscious mind. It's activating dormant potentials in your DNA, awakening cellular memories of who you truly are beyond the limitations you've accepted as reality. Feel that slight expansion in your chest, that gentle loosening of something that's been held tight for so long. That's the beginning of decoherence, the old patterns starting to lose their grip on your energy field. Your nervous system is literally beginning to attune to a higher frequency version of yourself that exists beyond the boundaries of who you think you are. This is sacred ground you're standing on right now. This moment of recognition, this stirring of possibility, what it really is your soul remembering its true nature. Don't try to understand it with your mind. Let your being absorb it. Let your cells receive it. Let your quantum field integrate it. Because what's happening right now is preparing you for what comes next. Dr. Amit Goswami, quantum physicist and consciousness researcher, has spent decades studying what he calls quantum consciousness. His research revealed something extraordinary. When we truly let go of our identification with old patterns, our brain waves synchronize with what he terms the quantum self, a higher dimensional aspect of consciousness that exists beyond the limitations of space and time. But this isn't just modern science discovering new territory. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, written over 1,000 years ago, describes in precise detail the stages of consciousness that occur during what they call bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. What's remarkable is that their descriptions of ego dissolution and identity transformation match exactly what neuroscientists are observing in brain scans during deep meditative states. Dr. Eben Alexander, the Harvard neurosurgeon who experienced a near-death experience, describes his journey into what he calls the core, a realm of consciousness where individual identity dissolves into pure awareness. His scientific mind struggled to comprehend what his consciousness had experienced. The ancient Sufi mystic Rumi wrote, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" What he understood, and what quantum consciousness research is now proving, is that our limited identity isn't who we are, it's who we've been conditioned to believe we are. In the Hindu tradition, there's a concept called moksha, liberation from the cycle of suffering. But moksha doesn't come through gaining something new. It comes through releasing the illusion of separateness, the false belief that we are limited, isolated beings. Modern physicists like Carlo Rovelli and Sean Carroll are discovering that, at the quantum level, separateness is indeed an illusion. Everything is interconnected. Everything is one unified field of consciousness expressing itself in infinite forms. The Zen master Dogen taught that enlightenment is dropping off body and mind and not destroying them but releasing our identification with them as the totality of who we are. Recent studies in consciousness research show that during deep letting go experiences, activity in the brain's default mode network dramatically decreases while areas associated with unity consciousness become hyperactive. But here's what these traditions and scientists have observed that changes everything about how we approach transformation. The letting go process isn't random. It follows specific laws, specific patterns, specific stages that can be understood and navigated with wisdom. 2 years ago, I was sitting in my car at 1 a.m. outside a 24-hour diner crying tears that felt like they were coming from the deepest parts of my soul. I had just walked away from everything that defined who I thought I was. My career, my relationship, my entire sense of identity. Everything that made me feel secure, successful, and socially acceptable. For months I had been feeling this strange pull, this inner knowing that the life I was living wasn't aligned with who I was becoming. But every time I considered making a change, my mind would flood me with fears. What will people think? How will you survive? You're throwing your life away. That night in the parking lot, I realized something profound. Those weren't my fears. They were the fears of the old version of myself, the version that needed external validation to feel worthy, the version that believed security came from controlling outcomes, the version that thought my identity was my job, my relationships, my possessions. And in that moment of complete breakdown, something extraordinary happened. I stopped trying to figure out what to do. I stopped trying to manage the situation. I stopped trying to be strong. I just let go completely. I surrendered to the unknown with every cell in my being. What happened next defied everything I thought I knew about how life works. Within weeks, opportunities began appearing that I couldn't have imagined. People entered my life who were aligned with my authentic path. Resources materialized in ways that seemed almost magical. But the most profound change wasn't external. It was internal. I began to experience life from a completely different frequency. Where I used to feel anxious, I felt excited. Where I used to feel limited, I felt infinite. Where I used to feel separate, I felt deeply connected to something vast and loving. That's when I understood what the mystics meant when they talked about death and rebirth. That's when I realized why every spiritual tradition speaks of surrender as the doorway to liberation. That's when I discovered what quantum physicists mean when they say, observation changes reality. The old me didn't evolve into the new me. The old me dissolved, and the new me emerged from an entirely different level of consciousness. This isn't just my story. It's the story of every soul that has ever experienced true transformation. And if you're watching this, it's calling to become your story too. Because what I discovered in that parking lot, what the quantum field revealed to me in that moment of complete surrender, is what I've dedicated my life to sharing. The path isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and fear, and that remembering it always begins with letting go. If something in my story awakened a recognition in your soul, if you felt that stirring of possibility in your own quantum field, then know this was not an accident. You are ready to go deeper into these mysteries. But how do you know, with certainty, that this quantum shift is beginning to happen in your life? The universe has a language. It communicates with us through signs, through synchronicities, through the very fabric of our reality. But most people miss these signals because they're looking for fireworks, for loud, obvious, dramatic changes. The true signs are often quieter, more profound, and they are happening to you right now. The first sign is what I call the divine dissatisfaction. You start feeling a deep restlessness with things that used to satisfy you. The job, the relationships, the hobbies, they lose their flavor. This isn't depression. It's your soul outgrowing its current container. It's the first signal that your energy is preparing for a massive expansion. Another powerful sign is what quantum physicists call reality glitches. You might start noticing number sequences appearing repeatedly, 1111, 444, 222. You think of someone and they immediately call. You ask a question in your mind and the answer appears on a billboard. These aren't coincidences. They are evidence that the veil is thinning for you, that your consciousness is beginning to operate from a higher dimensional frequency. Pay attention to your body. As you attune to these higher frequencies, your body becomes an exquisite guidance system. Your intuition is no longer a whisper. It's a clear physical sensation. Expansion feels light, energizing, spacious. Contraction, the feeling of being around the wrong people or situations, feels heavy, draining, and restrictive. Your body is speaking the language of frequency. You might also notice that old patterns are amplifying before they dissolve. This is what the great consciousness researcher David Hawkins called the final purgation. An old fear, an old insecurity, a past relationship issue might suddenly reappear with intense energy. This isn't a sign that you're going backwards. It is the final echo of a dying timeline. It's a sign that these patterns are losing their unconscious hold and are coming to the surface for one final release. But here is the sign that confirms you are in the deepest part of the quantum shift. You start experiencing what the mystics have always called the dark night of the soul. Everything that used to give your life meaning and identity feels empty. The old you feels like a stranger. This phase can feel isolating, terrifying. But this isn't a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. It is your consciousness dissolving the boundaries of the old self to make way for the true self. And here is the secret I haven't told you yet. There is a specific moment in this process of letting go where most people turn back. There is a threshold that, once crossed, makes the transformation irreversible. That threshold is a conscious choice. This is that moment. This is your threshold. So right now we are going to make a collective declaration, a signal to the universe that we are ready to cross that threshold together. Go to the comments and write this powerful, intentional phrase, "I am stepping through the portal." This is more than a comment. It is an energetic command, a quantum event that declares your readiness to dissolve the old and embody the new. And as you type those words, press the like button. Not for the algorithm, but for yourself. Treat it as a physical anchor that seals your intention into this moment. Each like is a pulse of light joining a collective field of transformation. And finally, if you are truly ready to make this journey your new reality, to receive the guidance, tools, and transmissions that will support you on the other side of that threshold, then join us by subscribing to this portal. This isn't a subscription to a channel. It is a commitment to your own evolution. It is your declaration that you are no longer a passive observer, but an active participant in the greatest shift of your life. When you truly let go of the old self, Your nervous system undergoes what neuroscientists call coherent reorganization. Every system in your body begins to function in a state of grace. Your stress response recalibrates, and you begin to experience a profound sense of inner peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. You stop fighting reality, and reality stops fighting you. Your cognitive function transforms. Your mind becomes clear, creative, and intuitive. As Dr. Bruce Lipton's research proves, when you change your beliefs about who you are, you don't just change your psychology, you're changing your biology. But the most profound benefit is what the spiritual traditions call self-realization, the direct, embodied experience of your true nature. Your relationships transform because you operate from fullness, not from need. And most importantly, you develop what I call quantum trust, an unshakable faith in the intelligence of life itself. You finally understand that letting go isn't about losing anything. It's about gaining everything. Pause for a moment. What if the path to your highest potential isn't about adding more, but about releasing, surrendering, letting go of everything that isn't authentically you? The caterpillar doesn't try to become a better caterpillar. Its entire being dissolves and something entirely new emerges. These are not special powers. They are the natural abilities that become available when you are no longer using all your energy to maintain a false identity. They are the birthright of consciousness itself. As we reach the end of our time together today, know this. The version of you that started watching this video is not the same as the version of you that is receiving these final words. Something has shifted. Something has been activated at a cellular, energetic, quantum level. The question that will now echo in your consciousness is this. What if the quantum shift isn't something that's going to happen to you? What if it's something that is already happening through you? What if who you think you are is just a temporary dream, and who you really are is the dreamer awakening? If you have stayed until this moment, then something irreversible has been set in motion. This is just the beginning. The activation that has happened is like planting a seed. What determines whether that seed grows into a magnificent new reality is what you do next. This is why I've created a series of transmissions that will guide you through each stage of this transformation. Right now, on your screen, you are seeing videos that represent different aspects of your quantum journey. Do not choose with your mind. Choose with your intuition. Click on the one that calls to you most strongly. Trust that calling. It is your quantum field guiding you to the next perfect step. And as you click, remember this. You're not just watching videos. You are actively participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. Welcome to the quantum shift portal. Welcome to the reflection of your highest self. Welcome home. The next level of your awakening is just one click away.